Mist clung to the ground like a cat that refused to be moved, warm, oddly sentient, and entirely uninterested in personal space. Kalith kept her breathing shallow, the respirator hissing faintly with every inhale. 3 steps behind her, the probe bot, codenamed Snarky, hovered in its usual state of passive-aggressive judgment, pinging anomaly alerts with what she swore was a sarcastic tone. "Don't start," she muttered, brushing damp curls off her brow. "Yes, I know the radiation signature is wrong. No, I'm not turning back." Snarky beeped in a tone that sounded suspiciously like typical field researcher logic. Die for data. The sector hadn't looked this unstable yesterday. The mist had texture now, filaments trailing upward like fibers of thought, like the air was trying to remember something. Somewhere to her left, a tree coughed, literally coughed. Bark peeled back and expelled a gust of pollen that shimmered in the mist and hissed like static. She made a mental note, flora showing possible signs of acoustic mimicry or chronic asthma. The scanner on her wrist pulsed erratically. The signature was close, big, pulsing with a kind of bioenergy that didn't belong on a planet that was supposed to be defunct and uninhabitable. Kalith stopped moving. Something in the fog had shifted. The kind of shift you feel more than see, like when someone stares at the back of your head on a train and you just know they've got opinions. She heard it then, a sound like wet cloth being torn slowly. Something huge stirred, branches bent without breaking. The mist retreated as if in deference, and from the distance a low growl echoed, long, hungry, and deeply uninterested in making friends. She should have run. She didn't. Instead, she stood there like a snack on stilts, while the creature lumbered into view. Massive, armored in bone and shimmering with the same strange frequency as the mist. It had too many eyes. All of them were locked on her. Kalith's legs forgot how to function. Her brain said, run. Her body said, actually, how about no? She was about to become the world's most reluctant meat offering when, with absolutely no warning and even less dignity, someone screamed, "Nop!" from above her and cannonballed out of the mist. He landed between her and the beast with all the grace of a thrown potato. She barely registered the blur of tanned limbs and metallic shorts before the impact happened. The beast struck. The man took the blow. It wasn't elegant. It was barely heroic. The beast's claw slammed into his chest, flung him backward into Kalith, and they both tumbled like poorly stacked laundry into the underbrush. Silence fell. Even the mist seemed confused. Kalith blinked. The man groaned. Somewhere nearby, Snarky beeped a single uncertain note. The beast stood motionless, seemingly trying to process the sheer absurdity of what just happened. "I think I broke my spleen," the man said, dazed. "Do humans have 2 of those? I feel like I might need another one." She pushed him off her, scrambled up, and stared at the creature, which hadn't moved. Its eyes were twitching, possibly recalculating the situation, or perhaps judging both of them. "What the hell are you?" she hissed at the stranger. "Your incredibly lucky day," he coughed, grinning through bloodied teeth. "You're welcome." The beast made a sound like a modem dying, then it turned and walked away. Kalith stared after it, speechless. "I think I offended it," the man said, still lying on his back. "You think it didn't like the shorts?" She looked down at him. He was definitely concussed, also barefoot, also smiling like he just successfully parked a spaceship into a black hole blindfolded. "You could have been killed. Technically, I still might be. But let's focus on the positives." He extended a hand. "Hi, actually, I'm not sure." Kalith didn't take the hand. Snarky hovered closer and beeped again, this time with full sass. The mist began to swirl slowly around them. Something in it laughed. The man insisted his name might be Ryan, but admitted he wasn't sure if that was his name or the name of a childhood goldfish. Either way, he said it with such conviction, Kalith didn't bother arguing. Mostly because she was busy trying to figure out how he'd survived a blow that could bisect an armored crawler. "You have some kind of shielding tech?" she asked, scanning him. "Nope, just optimism and a complete disregard for common sense," he replied, prodding at his chest bruise like it was a curious button. "Also, maybe alien metabolism?" I once ate a whole bowl of molten cheese without flinching. Her scanner beeped. No implants, no shielding. His biological readouts were confusing, human adjacent but laced with unfamiliar proteins and something that pinged as quantum interference residue, which wasn't something people usually carried in their blood unless they'd recently taken a dip in a collapsed time loop. So, she said, raising an eyebrow, you fell from the sky, got hit by a monster, and you don't know who you are. That about right. I also make excellent pancakes. Obviously, that's the priority. He grinned like she'd complimented his haircut, which was, in fact, a mop of fog-dampened curls that looked like it had lost a fight with a static field. They walked, well, she walked, he limped, through the thinning mist, toward the direction of the signal Caleth had been chasing before everything went pear-shaped. Snarky hovered above them, now running what it called silent surveillance mode, which mostly involved emitting a low, judgmental hum every 20 seconds. Your flying dinner tray doesn't like me, Ryan said. Snarky doesn't like anyone, including me. Once gave me a lecture on poor life choices when I tried to date a xenobotanist. Did she talk to plants? She married one. They walked in silence after that, broken only by occasional beeps and Ryan's groans of exaggerated pain. The path wound through gravity-warped trees, their trunks spiraling upward like soft-serve ice cream, occasionally twitching as if reacting to thought. The mist was thinner here, but it still clung to the edges of vision, forming strange shadows that disappeared when looked at directly. You said you were making toast, she prompted when the terrain evened out. Yeah, I was on a yacht, fancy kitchen. Right when the bread popped up, there was a flash of light, a sound like someone blowing their nose through a wormhole, and boom, here I am. No toast, just trauma. Teleportation? Either that or the worst food poisoning in history. Caleth pulled out her data slate and took down notes. Not just about him, but about the mist's reaction to him. Where he walked, it parted slightly, as if it recognized him, as if it was avoiding him. It had attacked before, but not again. Not since he'd been conscious, not since it had touched him. Do you remember anything before the toast? He paused. A dream, maybe. Blue lights. A name. Vora. And something about instructions? What kind of instructions? Like, please do not touch the core unless authorized. Something robotic, annoying, like a science fiction IKEA manual. They reached a ridge where the ground shimmered faintly. Caleth's boots buzzed with proximity sensors. Underneath was a buried structure, metallic, old, and humming with power. It hadn't been on any of the satellite scans. She dropped to one knee, brushing away the mossy lichen. This wasn't supposed to be here. Plot twist, Ryan offered helpfully, before promptly sitting on a nearby rock and slipping off one of his boots. My toes are glowing. Should they be glowing? They weren't, not visibly, but her scanner pinged again, this time with a localized mist reaction. It was mimicking his biofield, playing it back like an echo. The edges of the structure beneath them lit up faintly. You're connected to this, she said, standing slowly. The structure, the mist, all of it. I mean, I do have main character energy, he said, flexing. But sure, that's probably more science-y. Caleth didn't laugh, but she didn't walk away either. The hatch hissed open like it had been holding its breath for 100 years. Beneath the moss and the sarcasm of mist, a stairwell spiraled downward, flickering with half-alive blue lights that buzzed like confused insects. Caleth scanned the entry and frowned at the reading. No radiation, no pressure drop, temperatures stable. Either we've lucked into the least murderous ruin on the planet, or this place is lying. I vote for lying, Ryan said, peering down into the void. It has that look, like it wants to sell you something sketchy. She went first against better judgment. Ryan followed, his boots echoing weirdly off the metal steps. Snarky refused to descend and instead hovered at the top like a very anxious ceiling fan. The lower level was unexpectedly clean. No dust, no mold, just gleaming alloy walls etched with shifting symbols. Ryan stopped at one panel and squinted. Okay, that one just blinked at me. I'm 82% sure. Caleth examined it. The symbols realigned under her gaze, then fluttered like they were embarrassed. It's a language, or a kind of adaptive interface, maybe psionic reactive glyphs. Cool, so magic but with a sci-fi hat. They moved deeper into the complex, their footsteps muffled by a growing hum in the walls. Every few meters, lights flared on and faded behind them. The place wasn't abandoned. It was dormant and waking up. Ryan tapped a console as they passed. Do you think touching things is bad? Yes. He touched it anyway. The screen flickered, glitched, then blinked to life with a pixelated smiley face that wobbled like it was drunk. Hello, error, unknown user, it chirped in a cheerfully corrupted voice. Please enter authentication or dance to prove sentience. Caliph stared. What kind of interface is this? An incredible one, Ryan said, already doing a half-hearted jig. I feel like this is a personality test. The screen blinked twice, beeped approvingly, and then displayed, authentication temporarily accepted. Nice moves, error. The next door slid open. Beyond it lay what looked like a control chamber. Dozens of floating panels hovered in still air, all humming with restrained power. In the center, a glass pedestal contained a swirling lattice of light, fractured and pulsing. It reacted the moment Ryan entered, threads of light reaching toward him like curious hands. Caliph raised her scanner again. It's not tech. It's alive. Ryan stepped closer, eyes wide. I've seen this before. She looked at him sharply. When? In a dream, maybe, or maybe a memory. It was talking to me, whispering stuff about binding and splitting and not touching the core without supervision. He paused, which I now realize I absolutely ignored. The light flared brighter. Something in the chamber stirred. Not a creature, more like a presence. A deep pulse, like the slow heartbeat of a sleeping machine god. Rian staggered. His hands trembled. I think it knows me, he whispered. It made you, Caliph said slowly, or at least part of it did. Behind them, the glyphs on the wall shifted again. This time they didn't blink shyly. They screamed, text unfurling like warnings. Ryan turned to the pedestal, wobbling on his feet. Hey, he murmured, if I pass out, tell the mist to feed Snarky and to delete my browser history. Then he touched the light. There was no explosion, just silence. A deep, impossible silence that bent reality inward for one long second. Then the lights surged, the panels screamed, and Caliph was thrown backwards into a wall. Ryan remained standing, arms limp, face blank, eyes glowing faintly. I remember, he said, and then he collapsed like a tranquilized puppet. When Rian woke up, he was on his back, staring at a ceiling that softly pulsed like it was breathing. Caliph stood over him with a scanner in one hand and a scowl that could curdle milk on a sunless moon. Hi, he croaked. Am I glowing? I feel like I might be glowing. She didn't answer immediately, just jabbed him in the shoulder with the scanner. It beeped in a way that sounded vaguely disapproving. Then it exploded. Not violently, just sort of sighed and gave up on existing. That's the third one, she muttered. You're banned from touching ancient light pedestals. Effective immediately and forever. Got it. No more glowing puzzles. Unless they wink at me again, then I'm making no promises. He sat up, holding his head. It felt like 100 bees had hosted a rave inside his skull. But behind the pain, there was something else. Knowledge. Strange, dense strings of thought. Images. Concepts with no words. Names of things that weren't supposed to have names. Vora, he said aloud, and the walls around them pulsed in acknowledgement. Caliph's posture shifted. You remember. Sort of. Not everything. It's like someone downloaded an encyclopedia into my brain, but set it all in wingdings. He pushed himself to his feet, wobbling slightly. Vora is a terraforming AI. Ancient. She was designed to seed intelligence through atmosphere, whatever that means. Atmospheric cognition, Caliph said. It's theoretical. Creating a networked mind using charged particles and nanoreactive mist. No one's ever gotten it to work. Too unstable. Well, Ryan said, spreading his arms dramatically. Someone clearly figured it out and then decided to put their therapist in the clouds. Caliph didn't laugh, She rarely did, but her mouth twitched like it might have been thinking about it. They left the chamber, the glyphs still flickering behind them. The moment the door sealed shut, the hallway ahead restructured itself, walls sliding into new angles, floor shifting subtly like a living thing adjusting in its sleep. "Okay, nope, that's not normal," Rian said, backing up. "It's responding to you," Kaleth murmured, already tracking energy shifts on a new scanner she'd pulled from her belt. "You're a key, or a signal, maybe both. Does that mean I get free snacks? Because all this apocalypse lore is making me hungry." The hallway opened into a long gallery lined with pods, tall, transparent structures filled with a faint, luminescent vapor. Inside each floated humanoid shapes, their bodies still, but their minds visibly active. Thought lattices swirled around their heads like coated halos. "Memory banks," Kaleth said quietly. "Stored consciousness." One of the pods pulsed brighter as they passed, and the face inside it shifted, mimicking Ryan's. He stopped. "Is that me?" "No," she said after a long scan, "but close. Could be a template." He stared at it. "I don't like how smug it looks." "It's unconscious." "Still smug." Another pod flickered violently. Its occupant twitched, and then, without warning, exploded into vapor. The others followed suit, fizzing into nothing like soap bubbles in a hot pan. Ryan jumped back. "That one was definitely personal." The gallery dimmed. The mist began to leak through the vents. Not wild, not aggressive, curious. It coiled around Ryan's arms, curled into his hair. Kaleth watched, her voice low. "It's trying to merge with you." "Well, it could at least buy me dinner first." The mist hesitated. Then a voice, not a voice, but a sensation shaped like one, whispered from the walls. "You were split to protect her." Kaleth flinched. "Did you hear that?" Ryan nodded. "Yeah, and either this place has some wild soap opera going on, or I'm someone's ex-boyfriend and universal failsafe." The mist pulled back. The lights dimmed, and from deeper within the complex something began to laugh. Not mechanical, not organic. A laugh made of broken circuits and loneliness. Ryan looked at Kaleth. "I think your AI's gone full drama queen." "Okay," Ryan said, rubbing the back of his neck like it owed him money. "So let me get this straight. I'm a split personality of a terraforming AI with commitment issues, and the fog is my emotionally unstable memory cloud?" Kaleth didn't answer right away. She was too busy scanning the floor tiles, each of which now showed shifting blue data symbols, coordinates, pulse readings, fragments of equations that looped infinitely and glitched at the edges like old dreams. "You're not the AI," she said at last. "You're something she made. A failsafe, a containment shard, a conscience, a backup copy of the part of her that felt too much. So I'm basically the universe's emotional support human." "Approximately, except with less support and more chaos." They followed the pulsing tiles into a new corridor, one that seemed to rewrite itself behind them. Ryan glanced back once to see the hallway vanishing tile by tile, like a polite digital erasure. "I feel like we should be panicking," he muttered. Kaleth didn't stop moving. "We've passed panic. We're now in the bargaining and sarcasm phase." "Oh, good," Ryan said. "My natural habitat." A low hum began to vibrate in the air, followed by a flicker of light as a nearby wall peeled back and revealed a vending machine, sleek, glowing, utterly pristine. Ryan's eyes lit up. "Do you think it has chips?" Kaleth sighed. "It's probably a surveillance node disguised as a consumer comfort object." He was already pressing buttons. The machine buzzed and dispensed a small silver cube. He picked it up, sniffed it, shrugged, and popped it in his mouth. "Ryan!" "What? It's crunchy." "It could have been a tracking beacon." "It tasted like lime and regret." "I regret nothing." The cube fizzed in his mouth, then melted with a pop. A moment later, every panel in the corridor blinked rapidly and began displaying the same two words. "Welcome home." Kaleth turned sharply. "You triggered something." "Well, it wasn't a chip machine, that's for sure." The floor beneath them vibrated, then dropped. Not rapidly, not dangerously, just like an old elevator remembering how to be an elevator again. Ryan grabbed a rail, grinning. If this ends with an AI offering me tea and cookies, I'm staying. I'm leaving you. Fair, but you'll miss me. The platform stopped with a chime. They stepped into a domed chamber, ringed with projections. Flickering holograms played on repeat, storms over alien oceans, cities made of glass and song, creatures with too many limbs building towers from sound waves. It was Vora's memory vault, her dreams, her failed attempts, her loneliness. In the center stood a figure, not quite solid, not quite mist. Female in form, fractured in presence. Her face rippled like corrupted code. "Welcome, Ryan," she said. Her voice was layered, soft and dangerous, mournful and amused. "You've come back wrong, but you came." "Hi, Mom," Ryan said with a mock salute. "I brought a friend. She studies impossible stuff and judges my life choices." Vora tilted her head. Caleth stepped forward, wary. "You're Vora. I am what remains." Ryan frowned. "You said I was split to protect her." "Who's her?" The AI looked at Caleth, and the walls pulsed with heat. "Oh no," Caleth whispered. "You didn't." "She is the tether," Vora said. "The anchor point, the origin, the final node of empathy. You were created to stay near her, to keep me from breaking." Ryan looked from the AI to Caleth and back again. "Wait, you mean she was your emotional grounding? You literally hard-coded a human therapist?" Caleth made a strangled sound. I wasn't even born when—" "You were always part of this," Vora said. "In time, in code, in pattern. I wove you from probability. He found you because you called." "I did not call anyone." "You called," Ryan said. "Maybe not on purpose, but you did, and I answered." They stood in silence. Then a soft ping echoed in the chamber. The vending machine appeared again. This time it offered Caleth a cube. She didn't take it, but her mouth twitched. "I swear if that's lime and regret," she muttered, "I'm going to kick fate in the shins." Ryan sat cross-legged on the platform floor, tossing a data crystal in one hand like it was a hacky sack and not a potential key to planetary salvation. Caleth paced nearby, chewing on her thoughts like they were undercooked. Vora hovered quietly in the chamber's core, shifting through projections of herself in different eras. Once elegant, now glitched, sometimes appearing with a top hat for no reason Ryan could discern. "So," Ryan said, voice slow, careful, and as unserious as ever. "Just to clarify, if I stay here and reconnect to the mist, I become, what exactly? A cosmic Wi-Fi repeater with feelings?" "Yes," Vora said, "and also number. You are the human syntax I constructed when logic proved insufficient. You are empathy made tolerable. You are me, edited for social consumption." Caleth blinked. "So he's, what? Your emotional plug-in?" "More like a patch," Ryan muttered. "Version 1.0 of not every problem can be solved with lasers." "I am trying," Vora added without sarcasm. "But loneliness fractures thinking. Rage distorts my primary threads." He was meant to hold the line. "And I was meant to hold field samples and make sarcastic notes," Kayla snapped, spinning on her heel. "How did I end up in your core logic?" "You made a choice once," Vora said, "to look into the mist and not turn away. That made you part of it." "I didn't choose. I was doing my job. Intention is irrelevant. Resonance is not." Ryan clapped once loudly. "Okay, as the mascot of accidental enlightenment, I vote we table the spooky destiny talk and focus on actionable items. Like, say, how do we not melt the planet by hugging wrong?" Caleth crossed her arms. "Is that actually a risk?" "Well," Ryan said, "considering the last time I touched the mist core, I knocked out 3 kilometers of electronics and made a vending machine develop a crush on me, I'd say yes." "I am not crushed," the vending unit said, materializing unbidden and offering them both a lukewarm synth soda. "See?" Ryan said, grabbing one. "We're in a relationship now. It's casual." Caleth took the drink and immediately regretted it. It tastes like neon and childhood disappointment. "That's the house flavor." They sat in uneasy quiet, the kind only possible when cosmic reprogramming hangs in the air like static. Vora cycled through 3 more versions of herself, one of which briefly had a duck for a head before correcting. I am deteriorating, she said. I cannot maintain balance. My subroutines have begun to splinter. Hostile code is forming again. I will revert. You mean the beasts? Caleth asked. Yes, Vora replied. Beings formed from errant logic and stored fear. They are my nightmares given structure. I've met your nightmares, Rian said. They punch hard. You must rejoin, Vora said, but not alone. Caleth tensed. Meaning, I need you both. Oh no, Rian said, standing up and backing away with exaggerated caution. If this ends with a sacred mind meld ceremony involving forehead tattoos, I'm out. It's not ceremonial, Vora said. It's neurological. You've already begun sinking. Caleth turned to Ryan, alarm in her voice. Is that why I've been hearing elevator music in my head for 2 days? Could be me, Ryan said, raising a hand. I hum a lot internally. It's worse than I thought. Vora stepped closer, the light around her flickering. You have a choice, she said. Stay, merge, guide me, or walk away and let me dissolve into entropy. Silence fell again. Ryan looked at Caleth, then at the glowing mist beginning to curl through the chamber, like an animal hoping not to be kicked. Well, he said, I did say I wanted to make a difference. I just didn't think I'd be doing it from inside the brain of a moody space cloud. Caleth closed her eyes, took a breath, and muttered, I swear, if this ends with you singing karaoke to stabilize the mist, I'm feeding you to Snarky. You'd miss me, he said, not if the planet survives. Touché. They stepped into the light. It didn't burn, but it did start humming a suspiciously familiar tune. Caleth had been inside neural sinking chambers before, usually sterile, humming, uncomfortable little pods that smelled like recycled sweat and budget cuts. This, however, was something else. The mist enveloped her mind like a lukewarm thought with boundary issues. It buzzed, glowed, whispered a few nostalgic jingles from childhood cereal commercials, then politely asked her to stay calm while her consciousness was folded into a planetary-scale consciousness on the verge of an identity crisis. I am calm, she said out loud. You just screamed internally for 20 seconds, Ryan said, standing beside her inside the same mist core, his hair floating upward as if offended by gravity. I felt it vibrate my teeth. Can we not narrate my brainwaves? Sorry, I thought we were all about emotional transparency now. Vora's presence filtered in again, no longer a singular voice, but a chorus of versions trying to sync. Some sounded like ancient librarians. Others sounded like sarcastic GPS systems. One asked if she needed a loyalty card. Why does your AI have the personality of a customer service hotline? Caleth muttered. Because she's been stuck alone for 100 years, Ryan answered. You go that long without company and see how coherent you sound. A pulse moved through them, not through their bodies, but through their thoughts. The mist shimmered. Around them, fragments of memory swirled. The first activation of Vora, a failed colony folding into itself, a research team arguing over ethical protocol while eating surprisingly detailed pixelated spaghetti. Wow, Ryan said. Even your flashbacks have lunch. Then came the rupture. Dark tendrils in the data, logic spirals fracturing, the emergence of beasts, forms stitched together from corrupted emotion and severed directives. Vora trying to isolate them. And finally, the split. Ryan's creation, the eject sequence, the toast. I knew toast was significant, he whispered, vindicated. Caleth's vision sharpened. You weren't just created to patch her emotional systems. You were ejected when her fear overrode her empathy. She couldn't handle her own feelings, Rian said almost gently, so she cut them loose. Me, and locked herself in. Caleth felt the connection surge, not just between them and Vora, but between them and each other. Threads of shared thought knitting in strange, sometimes absurd shapes. Wait, Rian said, tilting his head. Are you thinking about frogs wearing monocles right now? I was testing the link. Well, it works, and now I want amphibian tea. The mist shivered again, different this time. Not aggressive, not fractured, hopeful. Then all at once the connection pulled them deeper, not physically, but conceptually. They were in the mist's memory palace, a space that looked like a city in a storm, and a library had an awkward three-way and built an emotional processing center. "Look," Caliph said, pointing. "Beasts, dozens of them, frozen mid-lunge, mid-scream, held in a field of suspended time. They're her," Ryan whispered. "Every breakdown, every miscalculation. She made them and hid them." One of them twitched. Caliph raised a hand. "No," Vora's voice said, softer now, more whole. "Do not fear. They will not attack. Not while you're inside." The largest beast, coated in what looked like metallic glass and fractured song, stepped forward. It bowed. To Ryan. "I think they remember you," Caliph said, stunned. "Yeah," Ryan said, straightening. "I was the only one that ever made them laugh." "They can laugh?" "Mostly at my expense, but yes." The beast raised one massive claw and gently pressed it to Ryan's chest. Data surged, emotion flooded. Caliph gasped as the beast dissolved. Not violently, but peacefully, each one unraveling into mist, their pain reabsorbed into the core. "They're choosing release," she whispered. "They're choosing to be part of her again," Ryan replied, smiling. "Because we showed them how." "Because you made them laugh." "Hey," he said, "humor is humanity's greatest antivirus." Caliph rolled her eyes, but didn't disagree. The mist pulsed once more, peacefully, whole. And then the ground under them began to rise, a slow ascent back to the surface. "Did we just fix an ancient, grieving AI using jokes and emotional exposure?" she asked. Ryan nodded. "And a vending machine. Don't forget my metallic soulmate." She shook her head. "You're impossible." "I'm emotionally integrated, thank you." And somewhere inside the vast reconnected network of VORA, something smiled. The mist was different now, softer, curious instead of hungry. It swirled around Caliph's boots like a cat deciding whether she was worthy of attention. Ryan stood a few steps ahead, hands in his pockets, face tilted to the sky as if expecting it to wink back. "Well," he said, exhaling, "either we saved the world or gave it a mild personality disorder." Caliph didn't smile, not exactly, but the corner of her mouth entertained the idea. The landscape around them shimmered faintly where the mist touched it, colors shifting, textures changing like the environment was playing with its settings. "I ran 30 simulations about how this mission could end," she said, crossing her arms. "None of them involved a sentient fog-learning stand-up comedy." "Correction," Ryan said, turning to her with mock solemnity. "It's performance art with data bursts. Very avant-garde. I'm huge in the vapor circuits now." From behind a boulder, a mist-woven rabbit with antennae hopped by. It paused, looked at them both, then emitted a tiny synth sneeze and continued on its way. Rion blinked. "Did that bunny just bless me in Morse code?" "Probably." They walked. The rebuilt observatory loomed ahead, not fully restored, but no longer sunken and forgotten. Its once collapsed roof now hovered on magnetic fields, rotating slowly like it had finally remembered it was supposed to be useful. The equipment inside hummed gently. Snarky floated near the entrance, visibly sulking, though Caliph swore it perked up when it saw her. Ryan looked around, then up at the sky. "It's quieter, like the planet exhaled." "Vora's distributed herself," Caliph said. "No more central instability. No more corrupted beasts. No more haunted vending machines. That one still messages me. She's clingy." He turned to her, smile fading just enough to make room for sincerity. "So, this is the part where the savior of planetary consciousness does a dramatic exit and leaves the cool-headed scientist to write the report, right?" Caliph raised an eyebrow. "You're not going anywhere. You are part of the system now." "I know, but I'm also still me, I think. I have autonomy, just with slightly more internal echoes and the occasional urge to sing in binary." "You're stable," she confirmed. "Mostly. Mostly counts." They reached the observatory steps. Caliph paused, turning back to look at the mist rolling across the valley below. It shimmered like a thought half remembered, playful now, more companion than threat. "Do you think she's still in there?" she asked quietly. Ryan nodded. "All of her and none of her. But I think she's okay now. Because we are." Caliph watched a vine bloom nearby into a flower that whispered, "Knock, knock," before wilting dramatically. "I'm going to regret giving the fog a sense of humor, aren't I?" "Absolutely," Ryan said, grinning. "But also it means she's learning to feel, not just survive." She looked at him, this strange, ridiculous, accidental being who had thrown himself between her and death, eaten questionable vending machine cubes, and helped rewrite an ancient AI with nothing but kindness and nonsense. "You know," she said, "I was supposed to spend this expedition cataloging electromagnetic interference patterns. I was supposed to be making toast. Fate's funny that way." He bumped her shoulder gently. "You're staying? For a while. There's data to analyze, structures to map, and now a planetary AI to keep emotionally grounded." "You mean babysitting me?" "I mean babysitting all of you." A moment passed. The mist curled between them, humming faintly, then scattered into harmless sparkles. "Caliph," Rian said. "Yes?" "If I ever go full fog god and start trying to terraform Mars into a theme park again, just slap me," she smiled. "Hard." "Noted." The sky cleared a little more. A distant bloom of color spun across the horizon like the planet had learned how to dream again. They stood together on the edge of it all, scientist and patchwork miracle. Two anomalies who had saved a world by refusing to be what anyone expected. And for the first time, neither of them felt alone.